Welcome to the Voice of Aging. I'm your host, Bryn Malone, owner of Aging Solutions here in the Pacific Northwest. Thank you for joining us. Today we have a great program. We are going to talk about real estate and the market in the real estate today. I mean, it's kind of dicey, but the numbers are great for people 65 and older, which is who we talk about on the Voice of Aging. And so today I brought in Jake Beal, who's a licensed real estate broker and agent. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so he's going to be joining us, and he's going to talk a little bit about real estate and how people 65 and older, what they have to look forward to, some of the pitfalls and the traps that they need to avoid, so that they have the best experience that they can when they're getting ready to sell their home, or if they're just contemplating staying there forever, what some of their options might be. Before we get started, Jake, if I could just throw out some numbers, because I tried to do some
Cool.
homework. You told me I had to do homework, so I'm trying to do some homework. Okay. Of the people 65 and over, this is pretty fascinating. 78% own their own home.
Mm-hmm.
I was not aware of that. I knew it was higher, and maybe we can talk a little bit as we get down the road here about home ownership and how challenging that is for younger people in today's day and age. Of those people, 40% still carry a mortgage. So I wasn't aware of that, and the average mortgage balance is about $250,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting,
That
isn't
was
it?
really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So they still carry a mortgage, but it's changed from when I was growing up. People used to have mortgage burning parties, where they would have a party, they'd come over and they make their last house payment, and then they would burn the mortgage. So they were, I think, called mortgage burning parties.
Sounds fun. I want to do
Yeah, it's a good time. But in what we do at Aging Solutions, we see a lot of folks, and they fall in the category where their home's fully paid off, or they have maybe a reverse mortgage on the home, or they're still carrying a small mortgage at 3 or 4%, and they're making $150 or $300 a month mortgage payments plus insurance and taxes. So it's kind of interesting what we see, but the other side of what I see in what I do is just a lot of people who maybe don't have a lot of confidence in the other assets that they might have, and they're thinking, do I buy or do I sell now so I can fund my retirement, moving to a retirement home, or that kind of thing. So those are the kind of things I'd like to talk about as we sit down here and chop it up a little bit. So tell us a little bit about you. How long have you been in real estate?
Yeah. So this is my 8th year in real estate in the
Okay.
Pacific Northwest, and I'm loving every minute of it. I got in right before COVID, so
Oh,
I was
good timing.
I was brought in like kind of at a more normal-ish market, and then the next year things just went crazy. So
Yeah.
got introduced to real estate in a very interesting time where I had to do a lot of virtual tours. It was more, I'm taking my phone and recording houses for my clients instead
Yeah.
of bringing them in. But no, I've been very fortunate to have gotten into this career and helped a wide variety of people get into homes, exit homes, and utilize real estate as an investment vehicle.
Okay. Can we touch on the COVID thing?
Yeah.
Because I would think everyone's isolated at home,
Hmm.
but it was kind of like everyone went out and bought a dog,
Right.
and now everybody's out buying homes. I
Yeah.
mean, what was driving that, do you
So,
think?
not an economist, but what I tend to think is that when you do things like dump a bunch of money into an economy,
Uh-huh.
and where there were all those like programs that were gifting funds and adding extra money into the economy, all of a sudden there was extra cash to be used to go purchase these homes, mix it along with really super low interest rates.
Okay.
I mean, the interest rates were suppressed artificially. Like those weren't real rates. That was
Rates to encourage buying.
rates to encourage buying. So
Okay.
all the levers you could pull to make buyers more hungry and more active were basically pulled at the same time.
Okay.
More money in circulation and lower interest rate, and low inventory at the time, which didn't help, with all the increased
So how
value.
many, like if a house went on the market How many offers would you get in the first week? Or
Oh man, like during that time, you could legitimately get about 10 offers, like 7, 10 offers to go through in Spokane. Some markets were much worse than Spokane, though.
yeah,
You'd have these old videos you can still find of there be an open house and you'd have a line of people like down
seriously.
the block trying to get into the house.
So scarcity,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
everybody's trying to get in there. Okay.
yeah.
Well, that was definitely an interesting time. I'm sure. Did you see a bunch of real estate, a bunch of people getting licensed to sell real estate at that time too?
Yeah, right now I think Spokane's hovering at about 2,200 agents.
Okay.
Back then it was, I think it popped over the 3,000 range. So
Wow.
we lost a lot of agents during that time as well, but there were a lot of
Yeah.
people that entered the market
Okay.
around that time.
So since the COVID years, and were most of those buyers just trying to move up? Like, okay, they're in the starter home and now they're moving up.
Hmm.
Is that what you were seeing, or were you seeing?
I was seeing everything. So people that were trying to get into their first home, a lot of move-up buyers, and a good chunk were exiting real estate as well,
Okay,
getting into retirement.
going into the
Hmm.
retirement homes. So when let's talk about people who are, you call it exiting
Hmm.
their homes. Okay, is that like a permanent term that you use when you're like, this person's not going to move up or buy a different house? They're going to probably go into
I guess in the
retirement.
terms of like an investment strategy, they're liquidating their portfolio in real estate and
Okay,
using that as a vehicle to do the next thing.
okay. So you deal with a lot of seniors and their
Mhm.
families, but a lot of people 65 or over and their families. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with that? And I mean, just anything that kind of comes to mind, if you will,
Mhm.
what the challenges are for them, and are people reluctant or happy, those kind of things to be moving. So,
Yeah, I think my impression as I'm talking to people that are either moving or thinking about moving into a retirement community or making their next move out of their home is I think a lot of them are afraid to talk to a professional earlier in the process because they're afraid to waste somebody's time or
uh-huh.
be pressured into something.
Okay.
So what I find is helpful for me as a professional in the industry is I'd rather start these conversations 6 months to a year, maybe a little more in advance,
Mm-hmm.
uh, just to make sure that we have a good game plan for selling, exiting, everything from how much are we going to be doing as far as liquidation of the things in your home,
Personal property.
personal property,
Yeah.
and just various things that are surrounding the exiting your home. Like how much work do you want to do to your home while you're preparing to sell?
Yeah.
Do you want to paint? I mean, so there's things that you can do to your home to maximize, wring every drop of value out of your home that you can.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wanting to get every single dollar out of your house as possible, then often we're looking at painting, maybe getting some new carpet, things like that that do take time, resources, and effort.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at everything and you decide, you know what, I understand that I would get more from a house if I do X, Y, and Z, but that does sound too stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have that conversation a year in advance
Advance.
rather than just by the seat of our pants, a month ahead of time and say, okay, well, I mean, I guess we're putting the house in the market how it is right now, whatever it might be. I just
Mm-hmm.
think that a lot of seniors would benefit from having more time to decide
Yeah. I
and
agree.
not having those hasty conversations with their grandchildren or children about what things do you want to keep, do you want to take anything with you, like there's a lot of those conversations that would probably more appropriately just take more time
Yeah.
as opposed to rushing through the process.
Well, they require some thought,
Hmm.
and what we do with our clients is we do a letter to the
Hmm.
kids, and we just say, hey, put down things that you might want. Mom and dad have final say in what who gets what, because oftentimes there might be two or more kids want the same thing. You know what I mean? Um, because everything, there's an emotion tied to everything in the house, and you don't think about that till you really start the move, is what I've seen, because we
Hmm.
help people with that moving transition, bring in movers and packers and all that kind of stuff, and the kids are like, well, I wanted that, but they don't voice it. So I agree, if communication is key, if you can sit down ahead of time and start talking these things out, put a framework around that, have some boundaries. Like, hey, some of the stuff we might want to use for our retirement comfort, when we do move, and so we can take a trip or something like that,
Yeah.
like the Lexus or another car or pickup truck or something like that, right? So
And to add to that, it's like
yeah,
if again, my goal is to reduce stress and make things easier and
yeah,
come alongside like someone like yourself and make sure that all the pieces work together.
yeah,
So if there are bigger projects, like maybe we have to take care of the roof or a number of other big projects, there's resources that someone like myself might have to make those jobs easier,
absolutely,
and
yeah,
that we can plan ahead of time and make sure that we're not gouging yourself when it comes to uh, the equity of your home. Because
yeah,
if we don't have to do a big project where it costs ten or tens of thousands of
dollars,
dollars, often it there's just that decision we have to make between risk and reward. Some
yeah,
jobs that we might want to do to our home might incur more risk than you think.
mm-hmm.
So again, it's just one of those things where I'd rather have that conversation
Sit
ahead of
ahead of
time.
time. Because it's like anything else, when you're living there, you might not really recognize what is vital, that needs attention, and you kind of ignore it. And then when a real estate person comes in and you think your house is worth, this much money, and the real estate people are like, well,
Yeah.
we might get that. I mean, if we put that on the high end. And I think also what's surprising to a lot of people, uh, my experience when they've just kind of retired, and things start to just, you can't do the upkeep like you used to be able to. And so things that you think's no big deal might go unnoticed for a while. And then let's just talk about roofs, because I mean we're looking up at the ceiling, but we're not looking down at the roof, right?
Right.
And so, you know, is it cheap to put on a roof these days? No, it's not cheap, right, to put on a roof. So
Yeah,
talk about that.
yeah. So roofs are an interesting thing, and a lot of this is dependent on how long do you want to live in your home.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to, if we're a month away, for the most part, I'm gonna say let's focus on the lipstick, not surgery.
Okay.
And pretty much anytime from about the day that we put the house on the market up to about a year, I'd really just like to focus on things that make the house more appealing, and
Okay.
less, if we can, about the things that make it more functional. Now, if there's something like wrong with the house, like the roof very much needs a replacement, we
Mm-hmm.
might have to approach that. But if
Okay.
it's got some life left, then there might be other solutions. An example of that would be, um, there are some companies that will offer a roofing remediation product
Mm-hmm.
where they can do a cleaning and then they can offer a treatment on the roof where it gives you a 5-year warranty on the roof.
Okay.
And they can do that for a lot less than you'd be able to get a new roof
Roof.
for.
Okay.
So if we do that right before you put the house on the market and say that the roof has a 5-year warranty, I mean, that looks a lot more appealing to a potential buyer.
Yeah. Sure does.
Right. So it's just like there's little things like that where we know there's a cost that's going to be incurred, but talking to a professional might be able to help you save, again, thousands of dollars on what we decide to do.
Yeah.
And my job is to make sure that you're getting as much as you can from your home and to save as much as we can on the sale.
Okay. So did you call it lipstick? Is that what you called it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're putting some lipstick. Does that include landscaping on the outside, or?
Yeah, yeah. So I'd
Okay.
say things that are
What is the
surface in nature.
lipstick?
I
Yeah.
say like lipstick is your front yard, making it look pretty. Make sure that the paint is new. Make sure the house smells good. You know, that can be one of those things where if you're talking to a savvy buyer will know that they could save 10, 20, 30, $40,000 on a house if it smells a little funny, if the paint is a little weird. And I mean weird is like non-normative when it comes to the style that is presented for most homes for sale.
Mm-hmm.
I like to call this the Pottery Barn effect.
Okay.
Maybe I can think of a better store someday for it, but you'll notice that when you walk into a store like Pottery Barn, I think there used to be one in the mall close
Yeah.
by,
There used to be one next door. Yep.
and if you went in there and you picked up a vase and you look at the bottom and check out the price tag, it would say probably $200
Uh-huh.
for a vase. And you're like, oh shoot,
That's
never mind.
yeah.
And then you go take that same vase and you bring it to a thrift store nearby. Well, now that same vase is worth $2.49.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, all that had to do with it wasn't just location, but and which is part of it, but it has a lot to do with the uh, I'll say vibe of the place that you're experiencing the buying process in.
Hmm.
And so there's a certain expectation when you're walking into a place that is asking for top dollar for a particular item.
Okay.
And if a house doesn't have that sort of expectation met, you're not going to get top dollar for your home.
Okay.
So that's why the furniture that you buy actually is an investment. It's okay to spend a little more on your furniture. It's not just that you're going to get more value for your couch. It's actually that when you present your home for sale, that couch is going to be present as well, and it'll, in my opinion, embellish the potential value that
It'll
you get.
enhance what the experience of the
Mhm.
potential buyers, right?
Right.
Okay.
Unless we're removing everything and we're using actual staging, which also is a definite option.
Yeah.
But then again, we're paint, new carpet, maybe new flooring, and just other things to make the house look a little more
So as a
elevated.
new carpet, I have a client, she's like 75, and she said, my aunt always told me, just get the cheapest carpet you can because you can just replace the carpet really easy.
Mhm.
And so she kind of lives by that mantra.
Mm-hmm.
So with carpet, because somebody might come in not like the color or the plush or the pile or whatever they call
Right.
it, right? And so you spend all this money. So what do you advise clients on when it comes to things like the carpet? Because that's really,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
again, a lot of this is dependent on if we're talking with um, a senior that maybe has less time and energy for uh, facilitating a big project like that.
mhm.
Uh, my first piece of advice is, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Stress is not worth it
Yeah,
to
good advice.
even if it's for some extra money. I'd rather you lighten up to not have to deal with the stress that it might incur. If you have family that can be a good support, then maybe we can figure out a way to facilitate that.
Yeah.
If we have the energy and we have the resources, then I would say that bright colors tend to perform better,
Mm,
and very neutral colors. So most of it's your white or off whites.
mhm.
I mean, even for carpet, and this, I'd probably want to talk to a stager to confirm what's fashionable at the moment. But it
Yeah.
does seem like the even lighter colors on the carpeting tends to be a good choice, just because light tends to expand.
Makes it look bigger.
It looks bigger when you're looking
Yeah.
at photos,
Yeah.
and photos even more than videos, I think, sell the house more. So that's the most important part when it comes to presenting a home.
So, what if you're working with somebody who's looking to exit and they're going to move into a retirement community,
Mhm.
reestablish some new friends and that kind of thing, and be more active than maybe if they're living alone at home because they've lost a spouse or that type of thing. Um, how do you what's a good approach? I mean, what are the folks that you're dealing with? What are they receptive to? What kind of approach? Because it's nerve-wracking, right?
Mhm.
They're nervous. I mean, this is a big step for people. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For me, it seems like people like to not be in a hurry,
yeah,
and it's often it's a very sad thing to move into a retirement community. It's not like they're looking forward to their next house in the same kind of romantic way. Maybe they
hmm
are, but um, not that hasn't been my experience so far. I think there is a bit of maybe excitement, but it's different than
It's,
looking towards your next
it's like
home.
the first day of school every year. There's
Yeah.
that nervousness, that
Hmm.
trepidation. Who am I going to get along with these people?
Right. It's
You
like a
know, is it
loss
going to
of
be a good
privacy in a
fit?
way, and
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
it's a very serious kind of close to a major chapter. And um, I think that what people want to see from their realtor when or really any service provider when it comes to selling their home or prepping their home for sale, or some facet of that move, is patience. And I really don't push for moving forward in real estate much at all. Like I
uh,
just want them to know that there's resources, and I tell them that I would love to work with them.
uh,
If it's a house that I feel like I can adequately represent. Uh, but there's, my schedule is based on their needs.
yeah,
So if they're saying, we'll move in when there's space for us,
Mm-hmm.
Well, then we're waiting for that, and we'll schedule with the retirement community to make sure that
Yeah.
we're on pace with their schedule. Um, if they tell us they're a year or two out, then that's our time frame.
They're a year or two out. And so do you give them like a checklist of things
Mm-hmm.
that they can be puttering around with and
Yep.
fixing and flowers to put in next year? And what time of year is best? I mean, we live in the Northwest, so we have 4 seasons up here. We got your fall, your
Mm-hmm.
winter with snow, your spring with snow,
Right.
and then summer sometimes with snow.
So,
So
I do hand them a checklist of things. Here's what you can be working toward over the
mhm,
next months or years. Ideally, uh, often we're timing things with retirement communities that may just have an opening in November or December.
yeah.
We just have to work with that. Uh, if we can time it, then I always recommend to aim for spring.
Mhm.
Between January, really the deep winter months, and the first part of spring through the summer, there's about a 10% difference in the last few years between what you can sell the house for. So if a house is worth 500,000 during the summer, it'll be worth 450 in December.
Okay.
And that's based on the median price in Spokane.
So let's dive into some of the expectations when you're sitting down with an agent and we decided we're going to hire you. Jake Beal, we love you. It's the
Let's
beard
go.
sold me. Let's
Yeah.
go. What can we expect?
Mhm.
You gave us our checklist. We've done most of that. Then what's the strategy that's involved? Okay, you're going to give me a recommended sale price based on what, right?
Yeah, so we're going to take a look at all available comps, and what I mean by that is, uh, I'll give a general range earlier in the process, and I'll just say, hey, here's what I see that's sold. So I typically don't tell you what your house is going to sell for, or what I think it's worth in the today's market necessarily. What I will say is, here's the list of homes that have sold, and how we can determine a successful price to place your home at is by looking at the range of homes in this neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and look how long it took each of these homes to sell for. And then also take a look at the active homes. Here's our competition,
Yeah.
and start comparing these lists between the two, and say, if this home has very similar assets to this home,
Mm-hmm.
and this one sold, and then this one hasn't sold, we can probably say that, okay, if this sales price worked and this one didn't, then the one that worked would probably give us more indication on what is a valid sales price versus the one that has not sold.
Yeah.
And we just start playing that game between this but not that.
Mm-hmm.
And after that point, it's more of a conversation. I'll give a range, like I think that your house is worth likely between 490 to 525. In my experience, I think that, and this is just the case for most houses right now, just unfortunately with the market being more in favor of buyers, we often have to make that choice of, we can try for the higher amount, but it's 10 times more likely that it will sell if we position it lower in that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And often it's at that bridge point where, if we think it's 490 to 525, it's probably going to be under that 500 mark where we're going to start to see some activity.
Mm-hmm.
So 499 is a much more likely sellable point than anything over 500, just because it's close to that bridge point. But that's more of a sales tactic. The number that you place on the MLS is more of a marketing tool than it is a final number.
So I'm just working with a client now. We just
Mhm.
listed a property in neighboring state, and we had this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's driven by activity.
Right.
But so we put some parameters on that, like let's price it. Just maybe it might be a stretch, it might not, but we don't know because the community, it's an HOA. The properties in that community rarely get sold. They're held on to or inherited, so they rarely
Mhm.
come up. So there's literally zero comps.
Right.
Okay, nothing's sold in that community for over 10 years. Okay.
I'm familiar with these. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're like throwing darts, and
Yeah.
that's so I kind of ask you that. so our strategy is kind of implementing a little bit of what you said,
Mm-hmm.
and that is like, let's give it 21 days, see if there's any activity, and then because we have to kind of test the market, if that
Yep.
makes sense. But if you have a lot of comps,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have any experience as a real estate agent, you're pretty well dialed in, right?
Right.
Okay.
So we can play some games with the numbers to figure out what
Yeah.
demand might look like for a certain kind of home. It's still a bit of guessing, but I'm sure that realtor did something very similar.
Yeah.
Appraisers will look, depending on the appraiser, will look up to 2 years in history in a given neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
That's not typical. Normally they like about a few months of data, like
Mm-hmm.
from now to 90 days ago.
Okay.
If we're really grasping at straws, they might go a little bit further than that. And since the market's been relatively flat for the past 3 years, then it's a good indication yeah.
So you brought up a point about appraisers.
Mm-hmm.
One, I like to know what drives kind of their appraisal, if you
Mm-hmm.
could speak to that. But two, I've had clients say, well, should we get an appraisal? You know,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just having real estate agents come in and do comps,
Mm-hmm.
should we get an appraisal on this property? So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think that appraisers and realtors have two very different jobs in how they assess a property.
Okay.
So a realtor's job is to look at a property and see what is the demand associated with the home,
Uh-huh.
not necessarily what the appraiser would value the home at. So it's kind of like if I walked into, did you ever watch that those shows? I forget what it was called, but you walk into like a thrift store and they say, "I'm going to
Yeah.
sell my something."
Yeah.
So an appraiser, one of the appraisers might come in and say, "I think that your book is worth $3,000."
Mm-hmm.
The guy that's buying says, "Well, I don't think I can sell it for $3,000. I think I could probably sell it for 2,800.
Yeah.
So I'll buy it from you for 1,500,
Yeah.
so I can make a profit." So he's thinking about the market in such a way where it's, here's what I can sell it for. Appraiser appraises it here.
Yeah.
Here's my market share. So
Yeah.
or here's my profit from that sale.
Yeah.
So
The person bringing that in wants the cash.
Yeah.
Right.
So what a realtor will do is they're looking at the house and saying, "I think that a buyer in today's market will be motivated enough to buy this house at this rate." The appraiser doesn't care about that. The appraiser only cares about, is that price justified? So if I was going to hire an appraiser to appraise a home, they're often going to come up with very different answers depending
Mm-hmm.
on who is appraising it. So it's almost their process to appraise something. Every appraiser is going to give a different answer.
Okay.
Which is not super helpful, right?
I don't know if that's confidence building or
right.
not, but yeah, but
So if I asked an appraiser to give me a number on a home, just blankly with no offer attached, what they're going to do is they're going to look at all the surrounding comps just like we would,
Mm-hmm.
but then they're going to start assigning value to different assets that a home has.
Okay.
Like bedrooms in this neighborhood look like they're worth $20,000 a piece. Every stall in your garage is probably worth another $30,000. Each square foot is worth this amount.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what they're not accounting for is, how nice your house looks, the style, those are things that are this much more of a soft side of the real estate world, where appraisers, it's still opinion, but it's a lot more hard driven. Like there's numbers and calculations involved that help drive a number. So the primary job of the realtor when they're doing appraisal is just to find a number that seems like it would create motivation in the market.
Okay.
So,
well, that was a good answer. I appreciate that, because oftentimes you're like, well, let's find out what the house is really worth, and we're not doing subjective stuff. But appraisers still are subjective in some ways, but they're being objective with square footage and how things are working, the furnace, the water heater, all that kind of stuff, what the roof looks like, and those kind of things, right?
Yep.
More details. And so lipstick on one hand, and then what's the other?
lipstick and surgery. Yeah.
Lipstick and surgery. Okay. I love it. All right. So then we're there. Mom and dad are set. they've decided they're going to sell the house. It's kind of dependent upon whether they're on a wait list to move into a community that they've chosen. Um, and now the kind of the details, and you mentioned that the personal property, you're bringing in resources. Maybe they haven't mowed the lawn for a while, and so we're making sure everything's groomed and looking nice, making sure there's painters in there to put a fresh coat on. I know it's hard to value that, but uh, before COVID, I think a gallon of paint was $35, and it's $70 or more now, right?
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. So yeah, I just bought some the other day, so that's why I I know that. But anyway, so they're getting ready to move and they're packing in. That's a lot of stress and strain. And now, what can they expect? They sign a contract. And that contract is binding forever, or how's that work when they sign a real estate contract?
So yeah, so I will sign what's called an exclusive listing agreement with my clients that decide to work with me. Those agreements, it can vary. I think the default is about 180 days. I'll normally sign them for about a year. And this is how I run my business. Every realtor is a bit different.
Okay, good to know.
What I will tell my clients is I will set it for a year. Until I put money toward this, I'm not going to hold you to a contractual obligation, but I do like to know on paper that you're hiring me. So I just want an established relationship where I know that I'm your realtor. If you decide to go somewhere else before I start, hiring a stager, hiring photographers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I want you to be comfortable in your choice in how you move forward. So there's no obligation to continue until there's significant resources put toward the house. So if we're playing a waiting game to get you into a retirement community, or whatever you decide to do next, move into a kid's house or whatnot, I would rather you feel comfortable with your decision in who you're deciding to work with, because it's a difficult process enough already.
Yeah.
I don't believe we need to make extra difficulty there.
Put more stress on it. So what are the fees and costs that somebody can expect when they're selling a piece of property?
So it varies greatly. One of the things that I like to bring up when I'm talking to a group of seniors or people that are working in the industry is there's a lot of different ways to sell your house. So I like people to be prepared on which mode may be the best way for you to get your home sold. If you're absolutely just needing to rush and I need my house sold yesterday and it matters less how much you're going to walk away with it, you can sell your home to an investor. They will probably only give you about they will take off the top 20 to 40% of the value of the home. So if your house is worth $400,000, they might write an offer for $280,000. Which is a bummer, of course. Like you want to get as much as you can from your home.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
sometimes if for medical reasons or whatever might be
We just got to
happening,
get out.
we just have to get out. There's resources like that. But what I do like to point out is that you'll get a lot of those flyers in the mail sometimes that will say stuff like, we'll buy your home for cash.
Yeah.
And sometimes the number on that offer, it looks legitimate, but it's not actually what they will offer you.
Yeah.
So those numbers will change after they do a tour of the home. And just know that if they're offering you that you probably get a lot more on the open market. It's not wrong to sell your house that way. It's just make sure that you know who you're talking to.
Yeah. Some of those houses I know that back in the day were probably in ill repair, but it seems like I think it's called the off market, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So the off market people now are seem like they're trying to kind of move into the more well-groomed and houses that are kept up.
Yeah.
And doing a quick cash offer. Is that
Yes.
kind of the...
There's a few different ways that we can say a property is in distress. One of those is physical. Another is emotional, relational, and health of the individual, right?
Yeah.
So if a property is in distress enough to where it seems beneficial enough to take an offer like that, then that is a good opportunity for what we call a wholesaler. That's the off-market sellers.
Okay. Do they go through you to do that, or how do they do that?
It depends. Like I can work with wholesalers, though my normal route that I recommend is is getting the house on the market, obviously.
Yeah.
If I think that there's reason to call a wholesaler, what I'll do for my clients is I'll call a few of them to see who might give me a better deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're making sure that they're legitimate offers and not just some scam.
They're going to get this offer, then they're going to get
Mhm.
beat up later on
Right.
well, we found this drain's not working right. And this,
Yeah, because there are strange ways. Um, here's an example. So sometimes what'll happen is a wholesaler will give you a cash offer and they'll say, we are going to go buy your home in 30 days. And then what they do is they take that contract and then they sell it to somebody else for more.
Mm-hmm.
So what actually happened is you just put your house on the market just to a smaller pool of individuals,
Mm-hmm.
and then they sold it for the excess profit on top of the home that you are now no longer getting access to.
Mm-hmm.
So, which to me feels really potentially really scammy. And I don't want to speak to all companies that do similar things because I think there's ethical ways to do that, and I think there's reason to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
For most people, even if you didn't want to do a single thing to your home, and I've seen this happen before, where we just put the house on the market for what one of the wholesalers was going to make an offer for, and we get offers above that amount.
Yeah.
And even some of the wholesalers came back and they made offers back on the house on the open market, so they had to bid with each other.
Yeah.
So seller was happy because they got the cash that they wanted, and the fees that I'll say that I typically say when I'm working with my clients is, know that taxes are unavoidable, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, I'd say that you're looking at the taxes, title fees, and other things associated with the home is about 3%.
Okay.
Now, depending on the broker that you're working with, they will charge different things. I can't speak to what the rate is for all realtors. I'd say that could be anywhere from 3 to 6% in total for working with different brokers. For myself, I'm a 3% broker, and most of the deals I see come in are asking for 3%. So I just like to say that I would be prepared for somewhere between 9 and 12% of the value of your home to go toward fees.
Now, are your fees negotiable? Like if you're approaching me and I'm like, Jake, I really like you, and would you sell my home for 2.5%? And if somebody wants to buy my home, can you talk to that agent and tell them that we're offering 2.5% there? So instead of 6% round table, I'm only paying out 5%.
So my question always to that is, if I say yes to that, then I would have dishonored the conversation at the beginning because I'm showing you that I don't know how to negotiate.
Okay.
So my fee is 3%. Now, what I will tell people after we get a little bit further into it is if part of that is a buffer for me to protect my clients, because some amount of that is so that if there's issues down the road, I have enough skin in the game to protect my clients. If there's an appraisal issue, I have enough leverage to protect and work with them to make sure that
if the appraisal comes in lower than expected,
or there's an issue with like this thing has to get fixed for, there's an issue with the HVAC system.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's gonna be pricey.
That's gonna be pricey. So that gives me enough to work with to say, okay, well, we can talk with my commission, the other broker's commission to work with that.
That's what you mean by protect. At that point, you then can negotiate if something goes kind of
right. Okay. But I need to have enough skin in the game and leverage to be able to do that. I don't typically say that up front, but that is one of the reasons why. Now, on the negotiation side for the sellers, when we're talking with the buyer's agent, we're talking with the buyer fee and the closing cost commissions. That's really where the if we're going to negotiate, then those two items are the easiest to negotiate for.
Okay.
I'd say that often we can negotiate the buyer commission fees lower. A lot of this has to do with just leverage in general. So if we have leverage in the talk or negotiation, it is easier to make requests that are to our favor as opposed to the buyer's favor. So asking for a lower commission and asking if, maybe the buyer can come up a little bit in their purchase price to compensate for some of the closing costs.
Okay. Okay. Uh, can we talk about what a dual agent is? So, what is it?
I don't prefer it.
Okay.
So a dual agent is it's actually kind of a funny name, because even if you're a dual agent, you're actually not, you're working as a non-agent.
Okay.
So an agent is somebody that represents somebody else in a transaction.
Yeah, you have a fiduciary responsibility of
Right.
that client.
And so if you have two people that you have fiduciary representation with, then you
Mhm.
actually have no representation, because I can't actually communicate any details of the opposing party or the other party without jeopardizing the interests of the others.
So a dual agent represents the buyer and the seller,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have two clients instead of, so you have the client who's the seller,
Mm-hmm.
but then the buyer comes along and they're like, "Hey, Jake, I know that you have this house listed.
Mm-hmm.
Would you represent me on the buy side?"
Yep. I like to say that
Is
as
that
opposed to an agency, I work more as a mediator then.
yeah?
So what I'll do with people that are working as a dual agent situation is we'll work together in collaboration to figure out what's an equitable way to make this work in tandem, so that way everybody feels happy.
Mm-hmm.
So when there is an issue during the inspection period, I'll offer a few suggestions to both parties and say, hey, here's a few different ways I've seen this play out in the past
Yeah.
where everybody's happy. How do both of you feel about that?
Okay. So,
But I would say ideally that it's not a dual agency.
a dual agency. Yeah, I think it just puts it's an awkward situation. Your first is really to the seller, because you spend a lot of time in working with them and finding out what their goals are and what the price is and what's good about the house, what's needs some attention about the house, right? Where lipstick can be applied or surgery needs to happen, right? So that can be tricky. Okay. What other? So we talked a little bit about off-market wholesalers. I think that can be really appealing to some people, but confusing. Let's say somebody signs a contract. Can they rescind it without penalty? Can they?
If it's a contract to like a purchase for sale, purchase sale agreement, not really. So
Okay.
it is serious when you're signing a legal agreement to let the buyer purchase the home. Now your only real caveat is you're agreeing to the terms that are first listed in the offer. So
Okay.
if there are requests during the inspection or alterations after that, then you're not required to adhere to those requests. So if they're going to make a request for a roof, then you can reject those requests.
Okay.
You're not obligated to do any of it.
Can they back out if I say no?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
They can back out.
The
if you say
buyer
no.
can back out. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Washington state contracts, and for a lot of just contracts in the U.S. in general, the protections tend to be for the buyer. So we have to be very careful when we're working with sellers to make sure that we have appropriate protections in place. There are ways to sort of protect ourselves against some of this. We could use, and these are pretty non-normative in Spokane, but we can do this. There's things called attorney review periods, where you can utilize that to have an attorney review your purchase to make sure that, or your sale, to make sure that the sale does cover your needs. And you can use that potentially as a way to back out of an agreement.
Would that be a specialized attorney, like a closing attorney, a real estate closing attorney, or
It's I believe it's sort of ambiguous in the contract. I've never actually seen it in an agreement.
Okay.
But I know that some states utilize them more often as a way to give the seller extra time to review a contract.
Yeah.
Contracts are pretty easy to determine what the outcome will be. So what I'll do for my sellers as we're reviewing a contract is we'll issue another, it's a net sheet, so that way you know what you're going to walk away with, or really close. Like I can generate a good estimate from the website, the title website.
So, because I ask for that all the time when
Mm-hmm.
I'm representing, when I'm someone's fiduciary, and
Mm-hmm.
can you just say that again? Because I think that's really important, because it's nice to use percentages like, okay, it's going to be 9 to 12% of closing costs,
Right.
but really you go to the signing to the closing and you're like, what? That's
Right.
all I'm getting?
Right.
So again, can you explain what you just
Yeah.
said?
Brass tacks. What I'm walking away with. Yep.
Yeah, brass tacks. We
Yep.
want to know the bottom line, right?
So what we do when we get a new offer, and I do this at the beginning, and then when we get a new offer.
Okay.
So we'll go to a website like WFG title net sheet,
Okay.
and you can plug in, here's where my address is, here's the state, here's my taxes, all the basic information, and then say, here's the offer price, here's the real estate agent commissions, here's the closing costs, and here's other fees that might be associated with it, and hit go, and it'll generate something pretty close. Now, I have seen it be off within like $1,000 or $2,000.
But not $15,000 or
Right. So
anything.
we're
Yeah.
getting pretty close. So that's why
Okay.
I say that like 9 to 12% is a pretty good range, and I'll be within like uh, again $5,000 if we just use the percentages. The net sheet will get us a bit closer to make sure we know what the walkaway number is.
Yeah. Okay. What else should we know about the real estate market, how it works,
Hmm.
preparation for clients and their families?
Yeah, talk to a realtor or other real estate professionals sooner than you think you might. So
Okay.
I'm always happy to have a conversation. It doesn't matter to me if it's tomorrow, next year. I would rather people just have that conversation, even if it's over the phone, just to see what they might need to work on. Um, you know, realtors tend to work different than other professionals. Like if I was going to call a general contractor, like
Yeah.
for them, they need uh, like tomorrow business. I tend to work on next year's business
Okay.
or next quarter's business.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for me, because we have that liberty in a sense to work that far in the future, I don't need to worry if this particular client is going to be closing tomorrow. I'd rather have that connection and just make sure that they have a good route and that I can be their resource.
Okay. So I have two more follow-up questions to
Mhm.
that. One, should we interview multiple real estate agents and why? And two, what questions should we be asking when they come in
Yeah.
to meet us?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to talk to other realtors. The things that I would always ask is, how much experience do you have? How many homes have you sold? Because if they haven't sold, if they've been in the industry for 20 years, but they sell, maybe 5 houses a year,
Uh-huh.
they probably don't know what's going on in the market too well. If they, how many homes have they sold in a particular area, or do they work with buyers and sellers? I actually think that, uh, people that tend to focus on listings don't know as well what buyers are wanting,
Mm-hmm.
and then vice versa. If you don't work with sellers, you
Sellers.
don't know what sellers are willing to concede.
Uh-huh.
So if you work with both sides, then you tend to know what's
Yeah,
happening
you
in the
have a
market.
better gauge of
Mhm.
what really is on both sides of the
Yeah,
market, right?
but ultimately, like I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. That's fine.
Yeah.
Um, when you're selling a house, like this is a very intense relationship for a short period of time,
Yeah.
relatively.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you find somebody that you feel like represents your best interest.
Yeah. Because you can get angry at your real estate agents really well if you're not understanding,
Yep.
what they're having to put up with, deal with on the buyer side or the seller side, and just the different
Hmm.
parts that are moving around constantly and that they're having to juggle,
Yep.
right? And so I just think the more disclosure, the more conversations, the better the questions are,
Hmm.
and then the expectations can be leveled off, if
Yeah.
you will, right?
Yeah. So the one thing to also is good to clarify is what is the rate of communication.
Uh-huh.
So I tell my clients that if we're active going going on the market, uh, we're going to start to talk once a week, and I
Okay.
call every Tuesday unless like if something happens.
Tuesday's your day.
Tuesday's my day unless
Okay.
unless for something happens
Yeah.
to my schedule, then it'll be Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
But you'll know that you hear from me at least once a week.
Okay.
Uh, And then if we're under contract, same thing. Even if I have nothing to say this new, I'll just call you and say, hey, nothing's new. We're just plugging along.
So under contract means that there's been an offer and the offer's been accepted.
Yep.
And so now you're under contract, right?
Mhm.
And so things are plugging along, and the appraiser is going to be out there at some point. The buyers might want to come through again. All those kind of things, right? Okay, the kind of the details of it, pretty things. Okay. Anything else we should know in the real estate arena
No,
here?
I think if you're talking to a realtor sooner rather than later, I think you're going to set yourself up for success.
Okay.
And then
Versus disappointment,
Yep.
or rushed, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, quick decisions in real estate are often bad decisions. I'd rather have a lot more time to work with.
Okay, that's great. I do want to note before we wrap up here, just in the 65 and older market, and there is a lot of transition. And Jake and I were trying to bring some of those out. There's a lot of emotions involved here. I think you said it really well that, this is a huge decision for somebody that's closing this chapter on their life, I think is what the way you used it. And then we talked about the reluctance of people where they are kind of wanting to make this decision, but they have some trepidation about it. And so I looked up what some of those trepidation things might be.
Mhm.
And at the top of the list was they just love their home. Some of them might have built it, or they might have, raised children there, had wedding receptions, the memories, the grandkids are on the wall, the high school portraits are up there. They might own it outright, so there's a pride in, hey, we had that mortgage burning party. Okay, had all the neighbors over. And then I think another piece, and I run into this all the time, is just the community engagement. Maybe they belong to the car club or the quilting club or the bridge club or the pinochle club, the red hat ladies group, or whatever it might be, or you work in the shop and the neighbors come over and have a beverage with you and maybe a barbecue, so it's that loss of community as well. Or your church is right down the street, and you're gonna, like, can I still get to church, or do those volunteer activities? Might be a block watch, or those kind of things. So those were the kind of the top three motives for people where they know maybe mentally but emotionally these things are tugging at them. So just want to share that with the audience and with yourself too, because you and I know that from working with this group. But Jake, I really want to thank you for joining us today on The Voice of Aging. Can you tell us where people can learn more about, because I know you do your own little gigs here. You got some funny videos that people should really watch him. He brings the beard to life, I'm going to say that, and the curly hair. So just whether you're in the Pacific Northwest or not, he's a great resource just for educating people. So can you tell us how people can find you and maybe watch some of your videos and stuff?
Real Jake Beal is my handle for most social media, if you use social media.
Okay.
Our website is thebealgroupllc.com.
Can you spell Beal for us?
Yeah, Beal is B-E-A-L.
B-E-A-L.
Yeah,
okay.
so real, like real.
Real.
As in real estate, and then Beal spelled the same way. It should be.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Thank you for taking the time to come in. This is Bryn Malone with Aging Solutions and The Voice of Aging. Thank you for joining us today. You can find us on social media. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Our website is agingsolutionsnw.com. You can learn more about what Aging Solutions is doing in the community of aging, and we'd be happy to support you. Reach out to us at info@agingsolutionsnw.com if you'd like more information. Thank you very much, and have a great day.